Thank you, God, for the first lights and the last cast and all the moments in between, for the breath that you've breathed into every swaying pine and the peace you've put into every flowing river. Thank you for an outlet that allows us to be closer to you, an outlet that makes us feel alive, for the shakes we get during hunting season, for the sense of adventure we get from wading waters, and for the goosebumps good music somehow always tends to send right down our spine. All of these things we've been given by you, so in all of these things we will do for you. This is GodDog.
Well, GodDog, welcome to another episode of the GodDog podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tyler Chambers. I'm here with the other co-host, Mr. Jasper Charles.
GodDog.
And we have one of my favorite people on the planet in this room with us today, and his name is Nick Walsh. He is he grew up in Kansas, Linden, Kansas, a little small town about 2 hours west of K-State.
2 hours west of Kansas City.
Oh, Kansas
basically.
City.
Hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really remember that drive too well.
Me neither.
But, yeah, this is one of my favorite people on the planet, and he's such a humble and wholesome guy. You'll definitely be able to tell that just hearing him speak. But he's got an incredible testimony, a really cool Nashville story, and I do believe that somewhere along the line there's some Dean Dillon in your genetics, just because of the type of songs that he writes. And
what a compliment.
Shoot. Yeah, I'll take that any day.
We might have him play a verse chorus or something later on. But yeah, Nick, thanks for coming and hopping on the GodDog podcast, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, to both of you guys, and good meeting you, Jasper.
Oh, of course. I'm excited for you to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's always awesome just getting on here and talking whatever, country, Jesus, all the above.
Well, I have no idea where Linden is or what Linden's about. So
Yeah.
how small is your town really?
1,000 people.
That's pretty freaking small, man.
It's tiny.
So every town that's that small has a thing, whether it's the factory or the mill or my granddad did. What's Linden?
Man, to me, like when I think of Linden, I think of sports. Like obviously a lot of farming and stuff, but the community was just like all about sports. Like that was a cool thing to do. Like that was our partying. Practicing was our partying. Like sports was just huge. And yeah, it's such a small town. You got to play every sport, and it's just like, I don't know, from the days of like Pee-wee football to like high school, I felt like that town just revolved around, well, for the most part, football. But I felt like just sports as a whole, like if it wasn't working on the farm or whatever, it was throwing a ball of some sort. So yeah, it's my favorite place in the world for sure. Tiny, just not a whole lot of anything, just a lot of God's country and a lot of hunting and fishing and just good people. So
Y'all grew up on a pretty good chunk of property, huh?
yeah, we think there's about 800 to 1,000 acres that I got access to and that we farm. My parents don't farm it, but we lease it out. And yeah, so I kind of had room to get in trouble 1,000 different ways growing up.
Hey, man.
I did too, but I didn't have that much land to do it on, so I always got caught.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I probably wouldn't have gotten in trouble if I had that much.
I'm definitely like spoiled when I think about it, because I'm like, babe, we got to get some property someday, maybe like, I don't know, only like 100, 150 acres.
I feel the same way. Our farm's 500 back home. I'm like, if I could just get like 200.
Yeah, now it's like, now I'm like setting my expectations a little lower. I'm like, if I could just get like 15, around here, that'd be awesome. But
So did you play every single sport?
pretty much.
Was there one that was the one?
Football seemed to be like the one, but
Why don't you go ahead and elaborate on that?
Yeah, tell us about it.
well, I mean, yeah, it was just football from day one for me. I mean, I started golfing at a young age too, but I felt like football was like my biggest passion. And fast forward a lot of years, that's what I ended up doing in college. Played at Kansas State and was a punter. I loved hitting people, so it kind of sucked that I was just a punter in college. But
I think that's why everyone starts playing football.
Nick made a highlight reel of him hitting people
As a punter.
as a punter. It's so awesome.
That's funny.
As a D1 punter.
Yeah. So that was fun. But honestly, like come basketball season, it was we're all basketball is our favorite sport, whatever. And then in the spring, I played baseball and golf, so you could dual sport. So I was missing class like every day between baseball games or golf meets. But I would say like football took the cake in our town. We're definitely a football town and a lot better at football than we were basketball. But yeah, so that's what I did in college, and kind of thought I thought the NFL was something I was going to be doing before I moved here. Injury kind of took me elsewhere, and thank God for it.
What was the injury?
Hamstring. Yeah, I was pro day at Kansas State and running the 40-yard dash like they needed to know how fast I could run a 40.
I didn't know this.
What year were you?
This was senior year, like right when I finished.
That's tough.
Talk
So-
about God doing something, man.
Yeah.
But it did, did it feel like that at the time, though? How long did it take you to go from... I'm sure at the very happenstance, you weren't like, oh, what a God thing.
No.
You're probably really upset.
No, I was like, man, I just missed out on $1 million.
How long did it take you to not feel that way?
Honestly, probably like a year into moving here. Like I felt it wasn't like my absolute dream to move here and do music. I mean, I love music. But like my sights were set on the NFL for a little while and just kind of explore my options whenever that fizzled out. But I would say like when I came here and started writing songs, it just kind of all started making sense, even before I met my girl, because that's when it really made sense. But I just fell more in love with music than I ever could have been in love with football. And that's when I was like, okay, like, so it took a while because it's hard not to be selfish and think of all the money you could have, made for yourself in the NFL or whatever. But
were you already dabbling with writing songs in college?
Yeah, like it's probably senior year of college is when I first started.
Oh, so it happened the same year.
Yeah, it all happened like at once.
But at the beginning, was it like, I just enjoy this, it's kind of fun, like whatever?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I always had a guitar, like ever since I was probably 10, 11, 12. I've always been playing guitar, just like cover songs, and never thought about writing anything or any of that. I don't even know what sparked it. I mean, I think I was driving down the road, and like back then, before I even really knew how to, form any sort of my own thoughts on a guitar, it was like on YouTube, you can get on there and put in like chord progressions on a guitar. Mm-hmm. And so I would do that, like driving down the road, just like put on random chord progressions and then just try and make up words over that.
Yep.
So that's how I first started writing. It
That's
wasn't even
pretty
like
sick.
on a guitar. It was just like stealing these chord progressions from YouTube.
That's so
basically.
different than everybody. That's like the equivalent of like, I want to be a rapper, so I'm typing in a tight beat on YouTube to like freestyle over it, but the country version.
Yeah, no. So I wrote some really bad songs.
I don't believe it.
Oh, dude,
haven't
you
even-
better believe it, bro. I mean, I was at that point, senior year, still playing football, showing up to workouts and all that, and was pretty soon labeled the guy that was like, thinks he's a country music star and all this. And so there's a lot of like jokes and poking fun and whatever, but
What year would that have been?
that's senior year.
Yeah, like what time frame? Like,
2017.
okay.
So
Turns out you actually are.
yeah. So who's laughing now?
That's right. That's right. Walsh.
But
So
No.
looking back, and I was thinking about this earlier today. We had our buddy John Tanner on a couple days ago, and he was asking me about our podcast and how it was going. And I was like, good, man. And I kind of had this thought pop in my head recently. And the goal for this podcast, I think, whether we know it or not, is to have the best conversation that you could possibly have with the people that mean the most to you or that can be the most impactful to you, and also have it around forever. And I think that there's something really special about this time, at least for us and you right now, because you happen to have a song on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is something that you could probably look back on, you know, sometime down the road and revisit your thought process, or, you know, just go back to a moment in your life where we could all be like, oh, wow, like Nick had that song on the radio then, like maybe I should go back and listen to what he said there or something like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man, going from the kicker or the punter and at K-State knocking heads and tearing your hamstring and picking a guitar and being that kid in your hometown, like what's going on in your heart now, man? Like, do you feel filled up, and like, is it real? Are you looking at the charts every day? What's going on?
I mean, yeah, I was just telling my co-writer today, like, because he asked me how the song was doing, you know, after we had that conversation, because you just kind of hear through the grapevine he's got the single or whatever, and so he's asked me about it, and I said, yeah, I'm checking that thing every day, like, because it's not like a, gosh, I obviously hope it does well, but it's not like a check and worry type thing. It's like a just trying to live in the moment and like trying to remind myself, just really appreciate the fact that could be the only one I ever have, and I'm just trying to like really take it in and soak it up and just like enjoy it. And checking the charts is fun for me. I mean, it doesn't like give me a big head or anything. I just think it's a fun thing to do, and I think you should be proud of, you know, those kind of accomplishments. And so I'm just very grateful, obviously, but I'm having fun with it too. I like checking the charts.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm doing that just for iTunes when my song comes out, you know?
Yeah.
What is that moment and feeling like when you found out, like the day you found out this was going to radio? And what was it like for you?
So Eric Dillon, one of the writers on it, called me and said, hey, I'm not like 100% positive, but I'm 100% positive that it's going to be the next single for Riley. And I was actually outside on the phone, and we have the Ring camera pointing in the backyard for the dog. Keep an eye on her when we're gone. And I just remember Ashlyn like talking to me through the Ring camera. She was at work and could like hear like the conversation between me and Eric, and that's how she found out.
That's wild.
That's sick.
That's cool.
So it was awesome. It just feels like it never like actually sank in at all, which is really weird. Like, I feel super grateful, but there was never, like, I remember that moment and being so happy, but it didn't like, I didn't like break down and cry like I thought I would have or whatever. It was just almost like I don't know. It was such an amazing feeling. Like, I always say, like, some tears too hard to cry.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Oh my, what? Have you written that down yet?
I wrote that song a while ago with my buddy Jake.
Yeah, that's great.
But I think some tears are like too good to cry too sometimes, and I don't know. Maybe someday it'll just like fall out.
I mean, I've never experienced that moment, but like I feel that way about a lot of the things in my life, especially in music, that I've like checked a box or been like that moment you're waiting on, whether it's the first X amount of streams or the first at whatever on the chart. Yeah. Whatever, like you're grateful and you're super excited, but I don't know if it's because it like almost doesn't feel real.
It doesn't feel
that
real.
You're like,
right.
Your brain can't, like it's, so you said it doesn't sink in.
Right.
I feel like I've tried my best, even in this year, to like make myself reflect on like how far I've come from 15 to now to like purposely make myself feel like, do you understand how big these things are? But my brain can't.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
Well, they're not concrete items. Like, nobody's like handing you a plaque in that moment, you know. Like, you get a puppy or something.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's in your hands.
Yeah,
it's
good point.
tangible. You can touch it. And we were talking about that in Music Road Ministries this morning. You know, like, we work and slave and write and think and learn guitar parts and try and live life to pull ideas from. But then at the end of the day, you still have something that's just kind of in the ether floating around, which music moves people, and it will touch you and make you feel something. But at the same time, it's not like, back in the day, you go to Walmart and there was your song on a CD right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I definitely could imagine that.
I think you like guard your heart in a sense too, because this is like an industry full of letdowns, and
Yeah.
so it was awesome that I got the single. But and I wouldn't even say in the back of my mind, but I just think the way my brain's trying to think now is like, well, it could peter out at 40 too.
Yeah.
And not in a negative sense, but just like, man, this is awesome. I'm just going to enjoy every second of it. I don't know what's going to happen with it. But I think it might sink in more if it for some reason reached number one or something, and then it's just stamped and it's etched in history. That might be more of a moment, I think, for me versus just figuring out that you got the single.
No doubt.
But I don't know.
You made a good point too. That I honestly haven't had a conversation with an artist or a writer about this in a while. I feel like a lot of people don't bring up. Like you just said that, like, you guard your heart a little bit. I feel like, I took a major pessimistic approach on that a few years ago, of just like, I'll never get my hopes up again in this town, which was, I took it too far, as if like I could never expect anything good to happen to me. Thankfully, I don't do that anymore now. But like, no, I don't think artists or writers talk about that enough, to where it's like, we probably all do that without saying it, where you've been told no so many times, or like had your hopes up and your heart broken so many times, that eventually you're just like, you got to put this front on that, like, I'm not excited. Because I feel like people around me, whether it's my girlfriend or my parents, you should be so excited for X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Right.
So I'm just not going to think about it.
It's weird because like Morgan and I will be talking about songs. Like I had a Chase Beckham cut this year, and the whole talk was like, it's gonna be the name of the record, and it's gonna go to radio and all this stuff. And she heard a lot of that, and she's like, aren't you excited? Like, get excited. And I just was like, I felt bad because I felt like I was crushing her dreams too. But I was like, hey, when that thing is on the radio and I hear it, then I'll believe it.
No doubt.
But I can't count my eggs before they hatch here, because you get your heart broke so many times, and you just kind of back up and be like, all right, God, like whatever you do with it, I'm cool with, but I'm not going to act like I know like what the future holds.
Yeah.
And so it definitely teaches you how to be really thankful, like you're saying, for the things that do happen, but also not get your hopes up so much that you're just so crushed. It's really just a tactic to protect yourself.
Yeah.
I think there's a balance to that, though. Because I think you can take it way too far, like I did.
Yeah.
You got to be somewhat hopeful that like things are going to work out, for the better. And that you just can't have too much of either one, or you'll get your heart broken no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopeful, and also just like, not letting like your happiness. I mean, because that could be why God's, changing and is working in the industry like this and doing, making us guard our hearts like this, is because we're not supposed to put our happiness in what happens with our careers,
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to find our happiness in Him and our relationships and, our family and the things that actually matter.
That's right, man.
So.
Well, you said you were talking about Eric and the song. Would you like to dive in a little more to, who Eric is to you, like your kind of process with that? I know you were once a pizza delivery guy, and I don't even know who you were working for.
I say, where was it?
Marco's, baby.
Nice.
Yeah, walk us through that. How do you go from, delivering pizzas to having a Riley Green song on the radio?
Well, the first couple of years, I just kind of, like everybody, probably bounced around floors and bounced around different jobs. But I met this guy actually named Eric, funny enough, different Eric, that he was a manager at Marco's Pizza, and he was the guy's floor that I was sleeping on. And so I got this job delivering pizzas, and at that point, I was just going to the bars every night trying to meet people. So somewhere along the way, though, and I guess it dates back to before I moved to Nashville, but I knew of Eric Dillon and his records. and I knew he was a Kansas boy, and I knew that I wanted to write like he did. And so a couple years after being here, I think he saw how much I wanted it. You know, it's always tough when someone moves to town. They tell you what they want to write. It's like, okay, how serious do I take this guy? Is he going to leave in a year or whatever? So I think he just saw that I wanted it and that I was working hard. And so we started writing together. And Eric's who ended up introducing me to Riley, and that's how I signed my publishing deal with Warner, through Riley and Eric and Warner.
So you have a publishing deal with Riley Green, Eric Dillon, and Warner Chappell.
Yep.
How long were you in town writing before you signed that?
So I moved here 6 years ago, and I'm coming up on year 3 of my deal. So about 3 years in.
How long into your deal before you had just first cut, whether it was major or not?
I actually had a couple cuts before I signed my deal, but just like buddy cuts, you know, just writing with buddies. Man, I don't even know.
Do you know your first major?
My first major was Matt Stell, and that was after I signed my deal. Yeah, that was a cool moment. I mean, that was up there with getting a single. It was like first major label cut. Like, let's go.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So that was really cool. But yeah, so Eric just really took me under his wing, and I just remember, I think we wrote Damn Good Day to Leave, like pretty soon after I signed my deal. And
was it just y'all two?
It was me, Eric, Riley, and Jonathan Singleton.
Oh, let's go. I didn't know John was on that song.
Oh my gosh.
Powerhouse.
So we were in Singleton's room over at 50 Egg, and it was one of those rides, and I still tell people, like, I was just riding the coattails that day. Like, how are you supposed to go in that room and like act like you're gonna control the whole song? So I mean, I think I helped a little bit, but you know, I just did what I could, and I played within myself, you know, like I didn't try, and I think I learned more that right than I did, you know, actually writing the song. So
right. I feel like I hear lines in that song though that are definitely have the last name Walsh on them.
I don't know. It's pretty cool. Like, man, just getting in the room and like watching Eric do his thing, or getting in the room and watching Singleton do his thing. It's like, wow. And then Riley's just a heck of a writer too. I mean,
yeah.
And for those that don't know, like, you know, some artists are great writers, and you know, some struggle with it a little bit, but Riley's like a heck of a writer, and he knows what he wants. He knows how to say things in a cool way, and man, so that was just, I knew we were going to get something good that day. I just didn't know what it would be. And honestly, we got done writing that song, and I thought it was cool, you know, but I didn't leave that room like, this song's going to change my life. Like, there was other songs that I had written before that where I was like, this is my favorite song I've ever written, or
right.
Whatever. I've had that feeling. You know, I didn't leave it saying that was a horrible song or anything, but I was just like, yeah, that's a good one, you know, whatever.
Do you feel like it's safe to say that Damn Good Day to Leave has changed your life?
I mean, I think it will, like, definitely help financially, but I don't think it's changed my life.
Yeah.
That's
a good answer.
I think there's certain things that have changed my life, and anything dealing with making money is not one of them.
Amen. Well, before we go into that, I can't skip over the fact, well, there's a couple things. I should have brought this up while we were talking about Kansas earlier, but Nick has a book on his wall that is so big.
I don't even want to know.
We're gonna cut to the picture of the book right here of him holding it, and with that old Linden, Kansas grin on his face.
Dude,
what did he score?
212.
When Tyler called me earlier and he was like,
monster,
we were talking about this, and I was like, yeah, where's he from? And he said Kansas, and I was like, oh, so he hunts.
Yeah.
Like, big deer.
Big deer. Do you want to, I mean, did you shoot that deer with a bow?
Rifle.
Rifle?
That's a funny story too, and that's a God thing.
Let's hear it.
Okay,
GodDog.
so
You can move that thing up right there if you need to.
Yeah, and are you good on your mic and headphones?
yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool.
I can't sit still.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, you see how much I'm
So
moving,
like
dude?
I'm squirt like it's,
I'm over here doing this.
I haven't slept in 6 years.
It makes me a terrible deer hunter.
Yeah, I know. Same.
That's exactly what I meant earlier when I said I'm a hard hunter.
Yeah. So I was bow hunting hard that year. This was 2015. And I was in a stand one night. I shot this buck on December 5th. And that's about right at the start of rifle season in Kansas. Super late. It's weird. It's not the rut or anything. And it only lasts 2 weeks. So I was hunting bow pretty hard. I was in a stand. I rattled this probably like it was probably a 180, 190, like nothing crazy for Kansas, but still a nice deer.
Never mind. I'm from Alabama, by the way. So easy with the statements when that's not big.
So I was in the stand, and this had to have been just like late November or something, mid-November. They're still rutting. And I rattled this buck in, came out of nowhere, like sprinting across the road, sprinted like 100 yards to me, and stood broadside like 25, 30 yards. So I was like, that's never happened to me bow hunting. Like I've always just had terrible luck bow hunting for whatever reason. So I was already on my last straw. And so I draw back on this buck, and I have one of those arrow rests that pops up when you pull back, and it popped the arrow out of the rest. And so this buck I didn't think had hurt me yet, so I tried to slowly let my string back, and my finger hit the trigger on the release, and it dry fired my bow, shattered the limb on my bow right in front of this deer's just like looking up at me like, what were you trying to do up there, buddy? So the buck obviously runs away, and I remember it wasn't even dark yet. I just got out of my stand and started walking back to the truck crying. I was like crying.
I want to cry too.
I called my brother, and I was like bawling. I was like, dude, like, when am I going to get a break with this? Like, I just want to give it up. And funny enough, in Kansas, you can only kill one buck a year. So if I would have killed that buck, that would have been it for me. And so I was like, sulked about it for a couple weeks. And then rifle season came, brought my 270 out there. And this buck that I shot called Stickers.
Y'all had him on camera?
Yeah. For like 5 years leading up to that. No.
Old boy.
We had me, my little brother, and my uncle and my uncle's friend all hunting the same buck for the last 5 years. And it was always like a joke. We'd, send the BBD text to their buddies, big buck down, They're like, really? You're like, no. They're like, hey, I just saw Stickers or whatever, They're like, really? No. So this was like a ghost buck. We never saw him in person till the day I shot him. But we had him on camera for like 4 or 5 years leading up to the day I shot him.
Was he just coming through in the rut, or was he living on y'all's farm?
We never saw him on camera during the rut.
Y'all have velvet there or no?
Yeah, we have velvet too. So we had this deer on camera for years. No one ever saw him in person. We just thought he was like this ghost buck. And we were all hunting him. And then for whatever reason, on December 5th, that buck just came walking out, and I knew exactly who it was from like 400 yards away. And he made his way to 220 yards and gathered myself and pulled the trigger.
Smoked him?
Yeah. He actually ran towards me he cut the distance probably in half. I shot him, he ran towards me and dropped down about 100 yards away.
Did you cry?
I don't think I cried. It was one, I don't know why I can't
Some
cry.
deers are too good to cry. Man.
Exactly, dude. Some deers are too good to cry.
That's right.
I just remember like laying on him though. I just like laid on him and like grabbed his antlers. I was just like, what the heck?
That's nuts.
So anyways, yeah, God thing, because if I would have shot that other deer with my bow, then we wouldn't even been,
30 inches
Can
smaller.
you imagine how mad you'd have been? Like if you would have sat on a hunt just for fun and watched him walk out after you shot the other one.
And I just think it was like, I think it would have been, well, to me, a lot cooler shooting Stickers, who had been after, that long versus shooting another deer that might have been 200 plus too that we had never seen before. It was just like you have this history with a deer. You kind of feel, just drawn, kind of have a connection with that deer a little bit. So.
It's like that girl you always wanted to take on a date and she finally lets you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, man, I know we'll probably show the picture of the buck, but it is so big. I remember when Nick and I first met. Or no, do you remember when we met outside of Red Door?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly. I think I was like, "Yo, dude, are you Nick Walsh?"
That was the first time I'd ever felt cool in this town.
Really?
Yeah, I swear.
Wow.
I was like, I didn't really have any friends. I had a couple, and I was just like, I somehow got in the room with Derek Austin. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, which it still is. I love you, Derek.
I don't know about that.
And I had this title, and I thought I always had a bunch of cool ideas, like titles in my phone or whatever. And we wrote this song called Missing You in the Meantime or something like that. And it was 2 a.m. I was probably, 3/4 drunk. And Tyler came up to me. He's like, "Hey, are you Nick?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, that title, Missing You in the Meantime, man, that's awesome." I was like, "Dude, let's go."
That's a dub.
Yeah, I've noticed
on
this podcast that almost all of Tyler's stories to his friends start with, "I was at Red Door."
Yeah.
That is, yes, that is a constant for
Should
sure.
ask Morgan if she wants to get married there.
I took her there on our first date.
There you go, dude. See, that's what I'm saying.
There's something about Red Door, man.
Yeah.
We didn't get drunk. I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing. Actually, I took her to the Virgin Hotel rooftop, stumbled through some words like I am right now, trying to just keep it cool.
Yeah.
And she wasn't giving me a lot, to be honest. I was just asking her questions, and she was just stonewalling me. Not in like an emotional way, but just she's kind of shy. And I was like, well, I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we were in Red Door. You want to go over there? So we did. And yeah, but what I was getting at, when I first found out or met Nick, I remember I was like, man, that guy, he writes some really good songs. Like, he's got something going on that I really appreciate. And to this day, I look up to you as a songwriter, and I mean that. But then I remember I saw that picture of you holding that buck, and I was like, God, I will never be that cool.
God dog.
God dog. I will never shoot a 212-inch deer and write Missing You in the Meantime, which that might not be true. But it was it was cool that you had shot that buck, also moved to town, because as a hunter, you don't realize, or as someone that doesn't hunt, you wouldn't think about moving away from 800 acres that you could hunt on,
Right.
to not be able to hunt on anymore and have to write songs instead. Because I feel the same way about Georgia. Mm-hmm. But it was just cool that you kind of had that thing about you also.
Yeah, man. I've said this from day one. It feels like me and Tyler are very similar, and not only the way we write, but just what we did growing up and what we love. And so it was real cool when you came up to me and said that, because I knew you were before that, but it was just cool becoming friends and all that. And I can say that about other guys in town too, and I can say that about Jasper now. I don't know a lot about you right now, but you can already tell we're gonna be buds. And it's cool in this town because it just keeps getting smaller. Nashville just keeps getting smaller.
It does.
It does. I don't remember did I tell John this? I can't remember who I told about Nashville, but man, I think my senior year of college, and I can't not remember the guy's name at Sony. He was somebody worth remembering, so it's very bad that I can't remember his name. And we were talking about me graduating and being a songwriter in Nashville and the whole thing. And he was like, man, all you need to know about this town is that it's just like high school, but everybody's got money. Mm-hmm. And it's so true. I see it more and more every day. It really, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's bad and good. And it's just like high school and money, dude. And it keeps getting smaller.
Yep.
I feel like you said that he was one of the first moments that you were like, oh, somebody else. I feel like it took me a really long time to meet other artists or writers in town that also felt like a good old boy. You know what I mean? From the country, which to me was it took me a long time to even accept that because you move up here being like, or down here or whatever, thinking like, oh, it's country music. Like everyone is going to be just like me. Everyone's going to hunt. Everyone's going to fish. Everyone's going to wear boots and blue jeans. Everyone's going to know the Southern thing or whatever. And then they don't. And you're like, wait, where's my people?
Yeah.
And it takes a while. Like, I mean, I've been here for 8 years, and I feel like it wasn't until last year that I was like, oh, there's other people here like me. And same way he was like that for me, where I was like, oh, he's like me.
I can't count the times that I've told it, like, and this doesn't knock on any of my friends here at all. It's just like, this is way early on. Like before me and you were super as close as we are now, and before me and my other buddies were as close as we are. But I was just like, I just wish like my boys from back home would move here.
Oh, dude.
That's just like an irreplaceable. They know everything about you, but like truth is, I wasn't pouring into anybody here like I was pouring into my boys back home. So when you don't put that kind of effort into it, you're not going to get out the same result.
Yeah, good point.
And so I think just looking at it in a different way, and like, you're always going to have your friends back home, but if you're going to pack up and leave and move here, you might as well discover and make and put some effort into friendships that are likely going to last a lifetime too. And you can just call your boys too. Like, so I was just like so set on, I got my friends back home and that's all I need.
Yeah.
And
that's
just way, like, dude.
I'm like, no one's ever going to be like them. But like, truth is, like, we would have been just as tight as my boys back home if we all grew up together,
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Not to interrupt you, but I forgot to mention this earlier also. So Nick was a D1 punter. He is a world-class songwriter, and he also happens to be a world-class Golden Tee player. And for the people that don't know what that is, please elaborate.
Well, it's golf, but it's on a cabinet, like a arcade cabinet.
Yeah.
It's got a little roller ball.
It's like Pac-Man, but golf.
Exactly.
Yeah, they got one at Live Oak. RIP Live Oak.
Yeah. RIP. No, I used to play on that machine all the time. But yeah, it's 18 holes. You just pick a course. There's like hundreds of courses on there. They come out with 5 new courses a year. And yeah, dude,
He's fun.
I just got super into that. I love golf, so like it was cool that I could, back when I was, really hitting the booze hard, I could go to the bar and play golf at the same time.
2 birds.
So it was amazing. But
you're competing though, right? You're doing tournament like Golden Tee tournaments.
That's
and stuff.
wild, dude.
Yeah,
Didn't you just fly to Vegas or something?
Yeah, we just had the World Championship in what was it, June? So played in that. Just had they do 5, 6 like massive tournaments in different cities throughout the year, and so the Nashville one was last weekend, and so that's what I was doing all weekend playing Golden Tee.
And you placed
17th.
That's nuts.
25th at Worlds, but I got 9th at.
Dude, they should have put you in the Olympics in Paris.
I know they need to put Golden Tee in the Olympics. That would be sick. I never thought about that.
That would be sick. We'll put you in a GodDog hat.
Yeah, no, we'll sponsor you. We can't give you any money, but we will give you that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So, with that being said, let's go ahead and we can get to the nitty gritty a little bit. Is that camera over there good?
Mine or yours?
No, mine.
As in?
Yeah, it's
what do you mean?
Still recording and stuff.
I hope so. I mean, it's still on.
Okay.
It hadn't given me a black screen yet.
Well, since we covered all that, we can kind of go ahead and get into the nitty gritty a little bit if you want to. So there was a time where you were playing Golden Tee a lot at the bars and stuff, and you said you were boozing hard and, maybe not walking with the Lord so much.
Right.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was like, the Walshes were just like massive partiers. Like, and I still like to party just without the alcohol nowadays, but I felt like I was just always the life of the party, or at least tried to be. Like, I loved hosting parties. I loved buying the booze. I loved getting other people drunk, getting myself drunk. That's college. I was working out like crazy during the week with football, so we'd really go hard on the weekends. And then when I moved here and you don't have that structure, dude,
It'll
it's a
wreck
game
you.
changer.
Yeah.
And so, I wouldn't show up to my pizza job drunk or anything, but I was at that point I was drinking every night, and didn't really see a problem with it because that's just what I thought you did, and in this town especially, And yeah, I mean, somewhere along the way, and I think it was probably COVID, my body just got so used to all that alcohol that I'd start doing everything. Well, to say it in a better way, there wasn't anything I could do without it. And so, I couldn't go to the bar and play Golden Tee without drinking. I couldn't show up to any rides in town without bringing something to drink. And I knew that this is probably a few years ago. When you came to town, when you came to my hometown, I feel like that was when I started to realize I might have a drinking problem. I always looked up to drinking and just loved it. And now I'm kind of starting to hate it a little bit because I feel like I have to have it to calm down or whatever. And so I just kind of brushed it under the rug for a while. And then, starting to drink at 3 p.m. turned to start to drink at noon and starting to drink at 10 a.m. And then that turned into right when I woke up. And then that turned into wake up in the middle of the night and taking a shot to go back to bed. So my body really got addicted to alcohol. And that was something I struggled with really hard for the past few years. And just trying to count drinks, trying to quit, trying to whatever, but feeling super guilty about it. And it was really tough on me and my wife for a while. It was just tough on me and my family. But so yeah, all of a sudden this thing that I just loved to do and did all the time turned into the devil and the worst part about me and brought out the worst in me. And, coming up on a year sober now,
Congrats.
I look back and I'm just I don't know how I did it, but it was the worst thing that happened to me, but it was the best thing that happened to me too. Cause I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it myself. I'm looking at Tyler cause he saw me go through that and everything, but, I feel like a different human being. I feel like a different man. I feel like the happiest I could ever be. And it has to do with that. It has to do with hitting my all-time low and hitting rock bottom. I never would have reached this level of happiness if I hadn't have gone through hell. So,
to say the least, yeah.
It's a story, it's something I can always, look back on. And I think God put me through that because he wanted me to experience this level of friendship with him and this level of happiness. But I think he also wanted me to have some sort of platform to help others that are struggling with it too. And I kind of feel like my whole life God's put me on a platform for some reason, whether it's being the third person to go Division I in sports from a small town, that platform it's how do you handle that? Okay, well, everybody's looking at me, so I can either be a leader or I can, in a good way, or I can set bad examples. And I chose to set, good examples and did a lot in the community and stuff. And then when I got here, he put me on a different kind of platform. The platform of changing your life and being sober and kicking an addiction. And so it took me being sober to realize that's why it put me through it. But I think it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
To say the least.
The unfortunate part for almost everyone, no matter what their thing is that it takes rock bottom to then be you said it, it's the best and the worst thing that ever happened to you.
Right.
And I think that's the common statement from everyone who's had anything that they've struggled with. Did you have a relationship with God before all of that, or did it start when you made that decision to kind of say, I got to change this?
I think when I started realizing that I had a problem, I had a relationship with God, probably all the way through it. But when I realized I had a problem, I could recognize that I was getting, for lack of better terms, pissed off at God more often than not. Like, why me? Like, why do I have to be, like, how did this happen to me? Like, like, why? Like, I'm not like...
Yeah, you start playing the victim card on yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And when it got really bad is when I found God. Like, I didn't find him when I got sober. I found him when I was 4 a.m. in bed with 7 fireball shooters under my mattress that I was hiding from my wife. Well, girlfriend at the time. But, like, I was just like, I don't know if this is a lot of alcohol. Like, I don't know if I'm going to wake up. I would be terrified to go to bed because I didn't know if I was going to wake up. I didn't know what the next day had in store. I hated the fact that I could only sleep in 2-3 hour increments and would have to wake up to just drink the anxiousness or the withdrawals away. So I just got into the Bible, and I didn't know what was going to come of it, but man, I cried for help. I cried for help for Jesus to help me through that, and he did. I mean, it took a while. It took me going through gallons of Fireball in weeks and ending up in the emergency room and quitting drinking, quote unquote, for a couple months, and then falling back into it again slowly until the last time that I quit to really know why I was going through that.
Man, just sitting right here and hearing those words come out of your mouth is very powerful. First of all, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know you and Ashlyn came over the other night for dinner and
Yeah.
we talked about it a little bit, but can you kind of share with everybody like her role and all of that? And just like, to me, that was something that it seems like without her, all of that would have been really like, who
dude.
knows, what would have happened.
Yeah, man. I might have been dead, or I for sure would have just moved back home.
Yeah, dude, you were all. I will say this, not to interrupt you. I know I just asked you a question, but that is one thing, and I said this other night. It really seemed like you didn't want to be here. I didn't know that you were drunk all the time. I knew that you drank, but even when we were in Linden and we bought that bottle of wine that morning,
drank it while we drove up to.
Yeah, we drank a bottle of wine while we drove up to wherever we were playing, and to me, I'm ignorant, man. I'm so ignorant. I was like, man, I guess Nick just wants to have a lot of fun today. Sure.
Yeah.
Like, no, I didn't know what was going on.
Well, that's the thing about when you're that addicted to alcohol is you can't do anything without it. So it didn't matter if I was driving. Like, I didn't have the moral compass of being like, all right, well, I'm driving, so I better hold off. No. Like, I would have been a worse driver without it because I would have been shaking and,
Yeah.
So you couldn't do anything without it. So that meant, we're not going to church today, or if we are going to church, I got 3 fireball shooters in my pocket.
Did you take alcohol to church?
Oh God. Yeah. Absolutely. I had to. I had to leave church mid-church sometimes, go out to the truck because I had a flask out there. I mean, Ashlyn's graduation, shoot, I had to go out to her car. I knew there was a flask of whiskey out there. Like, dude, it was bad. I couldn't do anything without it.
So what was her role throughout that process? I know y'all were dating, and then y'all were engaged, and obviously now you're married, but yeah, just walk us through that a little bit if you don't mind.
I mean, I think she had the same kind of thought process as you just described for probably the first year of us dating. Like, she's like, man, Nick just likes to have a good time, And she was, in the beginning, she'd come home and surprise me with a bottle of Screwball. I used to love Screwball. And I think she, a few months, probably like a year after that, when she would, after bringing me a bottle home pretty much every day, or me bringing a bottle home and then realizing it was gone the next morning, she's like, man, this has been like a year, and this has been like every night. So, and, somewhere along the way, I kind of hinted like, at the fact that I think I have a problem, and I think that kind of changed her outlook on alcohol from that point forward. But dude, I've cried to Ashlyn so many times about it. Woke up middle of the night, just panic attacks, and her sitting there watching me chug a beer, have a shot at 3, 4 in the morning and crying herself. Dude, that's just heartbreaking. Like, where she's like, you don't need it, and you go grab it anyways and drink it at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday, Tuesday morning, whatever. Dude, it's just like, I just vividly remember like some of those nights. And her role, I would say, she just did it so perfectly. Like, if I wanted a drink, she didn't tell me I couldn't, even if she knew I needed it for something. But at the same time, she was a great example, because I noticed her drinking a lot less. And I think she just wanted to be a good example for me, but at the same time, never like got mad at me for doing it. So there's
a lot of patience.
There's a lot of patience. Yeah. And I don't know exactly how she handled it, but she handled it perfectly, if that makes sense.
You said to me one time that I think it was the last time you quit, that you just kind of sat there in bed for a couple days, right? And didn't you sweat it out pretty much?
Yeah, so the first time when I went to the ER and wanted to quit, they put me on some sort of drug, like a Librium tapers off alcohol. And when I wanted to quit the second time, I called her that morning. I was a few shots in. I was canceling a bunch of rides at that point. And I had already promised her I wouldn't let it get that bad again, and promised my mom that too. And sure enough, it did. And she was on her way to a workout, and I called her. She didn't sound thrilled, but the love in her heart brought her. She's turned around and came back home. Like, and it wasn't a pretty moment. Like, don't get me wrong, she was upset, but she also loved me and wanted to help. So she came home, and we went all throughout the house and threw every last drop of alcohol away. And I thought I was going to die because I didn't have any like medicine to help me through it this time. And yeah, we withdrew at the house, and it probably lasted 3 days. And thank God she had another God thing. She had the next 3 days off. If she would have had to work those days, I don't know what I would have scratched and clawed and tried to find some alcohol. Like, probably. I wanted to quit, but I needed help in those first 3 days, like really bad. Honestly, what I probably would have done is went to rehab, like an actual rehab. Because at that point, I really did want to quit. But anyway, so we did some like just sat there and withdrawed for the next 3 days, and that was terrible. I mean, just constant. Like, have you guys ever had a panic attack where you think you're going to die?
Yes. Like an actual real panic attack.
Like a real life, not just worrying. And
no, I've had real one.
They're horrible.
It's the scariest. You actually think you're dying.
You actually think you're dying. I've been to the emergency room a handful of times. Like, even in college, like, ambulance came and got me because I thought I was having a heart attack. And it was that just constantly for like the first 24 hours. Like lightning going through my body, sweating, shaking, just running cold water on my head like every 5 minutes. Ashlyn telling me I wasn't going to die every 5 minutes because I was like, I think I'm going to die. Like, this is it. Like, freaking out. And then that turned into like 48 hours, no sleep. And then trying to go to bed, I would like wake up and I would feel like I sunk down like a mile in my bed, like in a pool of sweat, like hallucinating, saw things like crawling on the wall and stuff, like just a bunch of bugs like crawling on the wall, like full on hallucinating. And it was horrible. And then one morning I woke up, I like actually got like 8 hours of sleep, like the fourth or fifth night. And I was like, I was born again. Like, I was like, I poured a coffee and I like went outside and I still have the lyrics in my phone, but I just like picked up a guitar and started writing. And it was just like this terrible song, but the lyrics were like, I can see the green in the trees, and like I can see the blue in the sky, and just like stuff like that. Because when you're drinking that much, like the world looks gray. Like it looks like this dark place. And I could just like, I felt happiness again. And I was like, this is going to stick this time. Like I know it. And like the world just looks like colorful again. And I just like felt like I crawled out of this hole and like this shell that I was in. And anyways, yeah. So coming up on a year, but it's just been one day at a time. And, the Lord's really helped me through it. Another reason this has probably happened is because Ashlyn, my wife, her relationship with God has like elevated to a place that she probably never thought was imaginable after I got sober. And she was close with the Lord, like, since I had known her, but I've never seen her just want to be as close to the Lord as she has in this past 11 months. And I feel the same way. And so nothing but good's come out of it. But man, when you think you're at your lowest and you can't get out of it, like telling you can, and all that's really helped me and Ashlyn's relationship. And we've never been better. But yeah, if it was anybody else, I don't know if it would have worked out the same. So I tell people all the time, Ashlyn saved my life, and that's because she actually did.
Right.
It's not any sort of metaphor.
Yeah.
She literally saved my life, and she handled it perfectly. And there's nobody writes nobody gives you a blueprint on how to date an alcoholic. So she didn't know what she was getting herself into, and just figured it out on the fly. And yeah, man, it's just it's crazy, and feel like the luckiest guy to be married to her. It's awesome. But
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely
amazing and also scary at the same time.
Dude,
What would you tell someone, or let me ask it in a different way. What are you doing now daily to keep you where you are and not going back? And the way that I would like for you to answer it is in a way of, if someone else was listening to this that is either wanting to be sober, trying to be sober, scared to be sober, and can't see the other side. Now that you're on the other side, what are you doing to continue staying on that side?
So when right after I got done withdrawing, I started doing AA. And I did that online for a while. What's more powerful than AA is God.
We might cut that and use that as a moment.
So a lot of people are like, you still don't AA? No, I'm not. And to be honest, I'm not really doing anything on a daily basis, because my past kind of shaped me into this man that I am now, and that man doesn't want alcohol.
Yeah, that's good.
And so like there's no there's no itch that I have to scratch anymore. There's no, gosh, I wish I could have a beer today. There's none of that. I was reborn. I have a different outlook on life. I don't need alcohol anymore, and I don't want it. And it just, so that's a hard question to answer,
that's great, but
because I think for those listening that might be going through something like that, and I would say do AA, but more so I would say, find your relationship with God and find people that are going to help build you up and set good examples, and find your why, find your reason, and are you going to be able to accomplish those things with something that's holding you down? But at the end of the day, when you go through something like that, man, there's no other option but to change your life around and to just believe that you're put on earth to not be addicted to something. And so there's nothing I go through like daily that I have to remind myself of, like, this is why like AA anymore, any of that. I think that's a great thing. And I think everybody's different. And, but I will say one thing that I do is I'm really open about it. And I always have been open about it. Like, I think this is therapy to me. Like, I know it's a podcast, but like, this is therapy, talking about it. I think therapy is a good thing. My favorite therapist is the lawnmower in my garage. Pushing, when that
song right there too.
When that thing dies 40 times when I mow my lawn, and I just have to, I can either get pissed off at it or I can just keep pushing on, But everybody deals with it differently. I just think I was truly transformed, and there's not something I have to do every day to stay away from it. I had buddies in town last weekend, and a lot of my buddies still drink, and that's great because they can, for as far as I know, they can do it in a healthy manner. But man, one of the coolest feelings was Sunday, this past Sunday. I wake up and they had already flown out. Ashton was working, so it was just me at home by myself and the dog. And my buddy Mike had left a half bottle of whiskey. It was still sitting on the kitchen counter. And I went and grabbed that thing and just smiled and poured it down the drain, threw the bottle in the trash, and went on with my day.
It's awesome.
That's so cool.
I didn't have a single thought about taking a swig of it or anything. And honest to God, just dumped it down the drain and just smiled and just like poured myself a cup of coffee. And I was just like, man, thank you, God. Like,
right.
No part of me wanted anything.
That's amazing.
So
He tells us that he'll give us a new heart. He'll take the heart of stone and give us a heart of flesh. And it sounds like that's what happened.
yeah, man,
Sounds like you have a new heart.
I do. I feel like I do.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah, man.
I can feel it, man.
It's freaking awesome, dude. I feel like.
And-
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm not like some perfect guy now or anything. Like, I still feel myself getting upset, like in traffic jams or whatever.
I wish that was the only thing I got upset about, bro.
But like, and I still like, I still like complain about things, but it takes me a lot less time to come back around and realize what's important these days. That's for sure. And I just like, I feel like my demeanor's changed. Like, I just feel like I'm, just more happy. Just 1 million pounds just got lifted off my shoulders. Just living a life I'm really proud of. And I think life's amazing. Like, I never thought life could be this amazing. And it's just
Getting started.
I'm living the best life I could possibly be living right now. And I just love that I can say that.
It's inspiring.
I just love it.
No, that's good.
It's awesome. And I think everybody can find that. I think happy is not that hard to find. I think it's
This man speaks in song.
right around the corner, dude.
I might listen back to this and be like, I'll give you the option then. I'll send you the ones I like and be like, hey, this is yours, but if you're not going to do it, I'm going to write it.
Oh, man.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like I said, I'm an open book, but I haven't like sat down in a situation like this and really talked about it. Like, I've talked about it like openly to, a variety of different people, but haven't like, I guess, put it out to the world like this. So it feels good. It feels real good to just be able to say that, what I've been saying, I guess.
Yeah, it feels good to hear you say it, man.
Yeah.
We're proud of you, and obviously we're always here for you and stuff. And dude, it's crazy to think about all the buddies and myself. I mean, I never was like addicted to alcohol, but I drank a lot, and I thank God that I didn't go down that rabbit hole as far as some others did. But there's so many people that have this story that live here, man.
Yeah.
And there's just there's something in the whiskey around here that like
There is.
Obviously we know what it is, but that just grabs people. And I think of a certain age at a certain time in their life, and you know, if it does drag you down, you know, there's ways out, and there's people around you that love you and that want to see you do good and be healed and have these kind of conversations with you.
Yeah.
And I think part of the GodDog podcast is just we want to shine a light on that vulnerability and transparency amongst men.
Yeah, the
You know,
realness.
like we're going to sit here and spit dip and talk hunting and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, we really want to shine a light on what matters. And you know, we can write songs and hunt deer and birds and ducks and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, the whole reason we're here is because God lets us wake up every morning. Like
Absolutely.
Jasper prayed before we started this. He said, "Thank you for letting our feet hit the ground." And we take it for granted every day. I know I do.
I mean, that's why I said that. Because I do. I know all day I do. I prayed that last night a lot. It was like, dude, I had a moment. In the shower last night, dude.
Yeah.
Where I was like, the shower used to be a place where I pray like hard. Mm-hmm. And then that's evolved and changed. Sometimes it's the car, sometimes when I'm walking, whatever. But last night I was in the shower and it like, dude, I had one of those prayer moments where I was like, ooh, might not even be me right now. Like I felt wild in there, dude. Just like
Holy Spirit.
dude, like seriously, for real, like the Holy Spirit was taking a shower last night, dude.
Yeah.
But like I was praying that where I was like, man, like how often do I go throughout my day and I don't even recognize you? All the things you got me to work, you got me back home from work, this conversation, that thing, this thing, like my health, like I got all these things that I complain about on the daily. And then I don't stop to think like, man, thanks for my vision. Like literally my eyeballs.
Right.
Thanks for letting me have 2 feet. You know, like I'm telling you, like I felt different when I got out of the shower, that I even walked to my bedroom and I was like, this is my bedroom. I have a bedroom. I have a bed. Like that's nuts. Like some people would literally kill to have that. And like, we just take it for granted, man. I know I went on a tangent there based on what you just said, but like,
Let her rip.
yeah, to his point though, and why I said thank you for sharing all that was like, that is the point of this. Like, yeah, we're good old boys. We're going to talk this, that, and the other. But like, we wanted to set something up where like we can have conversations with real men about real things. Not just has to be men, but like real people.
Yeah.
And like the drinking thing is a real problem. It's a real problem, period, all across everyone's life. Dude, but this town's like, it's founded on it. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to think it's like, you know, you write songs with your buddies in your bedroom in your college and whatever, and you're drinking a 6-pack. Well, then you upgrade, and now you're playing songs on into Mum Brand and Music Row or whatever, and you're doing your writers rounds at 9, 10, 11 p.m., and you're up there on stage, and either you've probably already drank 3 or 4 yourself, and then your buddy buys you one while you're up there, and then you buy your buddy one while he's up there, and then you all go to Red Door afterwards, and then you do that until Thursday. And then if you're an artist, you leave on Thursday night, and you go play shows until Sunday, and you drink the whole time. It's like this built-in process of like, that's just what you do.
It's like the music industry oil.
Yes.
It's like it keeps everything going at times. And I always feel bad, not to make anything about this conversation about myself, but from my personal experience, I didn't get exactly where Nick was or some other people had been, but I got pretty bad, and I just made a decision one day that I was just going to try and cut as much of it out as I could. And Nick, we were talking about this the other night. Now when I go home, like I really, really love drinking a scotch with my dad. Mm-hmm. And that's like one of the only times that I really let myself, like if I have 1 or 2, then that's fine. But I always feel, sometimes I feel like I have to explain myself in situations where I can't, because like when I come home, people are like, hey, can we get you a drink, or you want something to drink? I'm like, it's not that I don't want to, just I know I shouldn't because of Nashville. I mean, I've experienced it at a level of like, hey, plugging Hardy here, but what one beer can turn into, you know, it can lead you places that are really hard to get out of. But I will say it's very evident, Nick, that Jesus was with you the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that we don't talk about enough is like through all that, you know, God, he is with us in the valleys. He's with us in the peaks, and Jesus is right there through it all. And we just have to remember that,
Right.
you know, whatever we're going through and whatever we've experienced, he's done it tenfold. Like he experienced that on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever pain, whatever's going through our mind, whatever, like however bad we think life is going, we have somebody to run to that has been there and that has succeeded and came out on the other side. And I mean, he's sitting on the right hand of God, you know, up in heaven. And I think I take that for granted at times, but it's true. Whether it's alcoholism, whether it's weed, whether it's drugs, I mean, you name it, whether it's pornography, being addicted to women. You know, that was my thing. Women was a huge problem for me. Yeah. But, you know, when you can humble yourself enough before God and say, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. I'm not myself because of this.
Right.
I'm not the person that you made me to be because I have gone down this path. Mm-hmm. Please show me how to get out of it.
Yep.
And now you're saying you can look back on that and be like, oh, well, this is who God made me to be, not that. So
answered prayers, dude. The power of prayer is crazy. And it has been my whole life, but I really got to actually see it and remember it the last 11 months. But dude, the amount of times Ashlyn's prayed for something or I've prayed for something and then it happened is just insane. It's really hard to explain, but I've never prayed over a song before, for instance. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but I told Damon because I wrote it with Damon, but that God-given song. And pretty cool that God's in the title. But, you know, I was like, Ashlyn, like I've said, she's just grown so much in her faith. She's like, you should pray about that song. I love that song. You should pray for it. So I did. I was like, and then I texted Damon. I was like, dude, you should pray about God-given, that it finds a home. The next day, I was driving to town, had a 5 p.m. Riley Green text me. He's like, hey, who wrote that God-given song? I was like, me, my buddy Damon, and Mitch Oglesby. He's like, I think I'm going to cut it. I was like, all right.
GodDog.
I was like, all right. Thanks, God.
Would you want to play a little bit for us?
Yeah, I'll play a little bit.
There's a guitar right there.
I'll get you.
I'll set up this.
See if I can't mess it up. There's some won't quit underneath this Chevy hood. There's supper on this muddy bank treble hood. And over my head's the sun that just keeps on shining. And under my porch gutters, some wind that keeps on chiming. I got a good dog licking the hard days off my hand. Lord knows I'm a lucky man, and counting these blessings, it's like counting every grain or every bank sand. So I thank my good buddy up above for sending me down just enough things I can put in a prayer when I wear my Sunday boots. But at the end of the day, they don't hold a flick of a Ep.02. God given me you. I don't know why he picked a beat up boy like me. When he opened up the sky, sent down a pretty pair of wings. Oh, Lord knows I'd be lying if I said I didn't think I outkicked my county line. I got a good dog licking the hard days off my hand. Lord knows I'm a lucky man, and counting these blessings, it's like counting every grain of riverbank sand. So I thank my good buddy up above for sending me down just enough things I can put in a prayer when I wear my Sunday boots. But at the end of the day, they don't hold a flick of a Ep.02. God given me you.
I still got the chill bumps on my arms right now. You make me want to.
Gosh, dang it! Mess
You made me
That's
either.
dirty.
You made me want to either be way better or just hang it up now, and it might be the latter, bro. That was awesome.
I remember when Damon sent me that song. I was like, "Yep,
That's so good, dude.
that's so good, man." Well, I honestly, that's probably a good place to wrap
I think
it
I would.
up.
I don't want. I'd love to end it on a note like that.
Well, Nick, is there anything you want to say to the people out there? We don't know who's listening, but
Yeah.
Right now, it's just cotton. So,
man, I would just say, yeah, be grateful for every day. And, you know, like I said, like happiness is right around the corner everywhere you go, and you just got to look for it. And I found a million reasons to hate living in the city, to hate Nashville, and to just, you know, dislike the way I was living and whatever. But man, turns out that's a lot harder than wanting to live a happy life and a Christ-filled life. That's easy. Like, it's so much easier than finding all the wrong things with your life. So I would just say, like, no matter what you're going through, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what it is. Even if you think you're on your last breath, like I thought I was. And just trust, you know, find that relationship with God, because that's just life-changing. And, yeah, your best life is one that should be lived, and everybody's capable of it. So thanks for having me on, guys.
thanks for coming, dude.
Appreciate it.
man.
It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, GodDog,
God dog.
God dog.
Nick Walsh, everybody.